coming up on Piano Teaching Success TV.
Music from a place of improvisation just goes into so many beautiful areas.
Hi, I'm Gillian.
And I'm Paul, and welcome to Piano Teaching Success TV. We've had a wonderful year, haven't we, Gillian?
We sure have. It's been so good. And it's actually not even been a year, you know. I think it's been about 6 months. Kicked off at APPC, this Australasian Piano Pedagogy Conference, and realised that we actually quite like doing this. And everybody was saying, oh, we're really enjoying it. This is so important to have. We'd like to know more about piano teaching and what have you. So we've just kept on going and bringing more interviews to you.
Now, it's the school holidays and holiday break for a lot of people around the world. And this is your opportunity to sit back and maybe watch a couple of the videos and interviews that we've done. Catch up, yeah. Gillian, you did a wonderful interview with Glory St. Germain earlier this year.
Glory is just an absolute pleasure to interview. She is so experienced with all of her theory knowledge and what have you, and it's so good. And I was very lucky. I was able to do her teacher certification course, and it was good to brush up, you know, even though we write all the theory books and stuff ourselves. We don't use all those very complicated new time signatures and lots of different high-level concepts that when you're working in a day-to-day practice you don't often do, but they're really great to brush up on. So yeah, she was fantastic and just so lovely as well with it.
She is lovely.
Yeah.
And Dr. Anita Collins we spoke to about all of the music advocacy and the importance of singing and moving when you're learning music, which we're both very passionate about. And we're very lucky that we're actually going to see Dr. Collins again in January at Piano Pivot Live at Tim Topham's event.
Talking about to catch up with her.
Exactly. Well, talking about Tim's event, we're doing piano live at Piano Pivot Live.
We are.
So you can join the watch list for all of our interviews. We're going to be doing some behind the scenes interviews with the presenters and trying to get the little nuggets of gold to share with you in late January.
And also ask some of those little follow-up questions. You don't always have time to answer, or perhaps the questions that may not even get asked on the day. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to catching up with all the presenters. And he's got such a fabulous lineup, and we'll be joining about 100 other lucky teachers that are going to be there and experiencing it in live and in person. And it's quite a lovely event because it's in round tables, so everyone's going to get a chance to really mix and mingle and get to know other people. So it's going to be fab. I'm really looking forward to it.
And if you'd like to join the watch list, pianoteachingsuccess.com/live will get you on the live at Piano Pivot Live watch list.
So we'll send you the list of, that's right. And then what that'll mean is that we'll send you directly into your inbox. But no, first up, be the first to watch them.
And you also interviewed Jane Shelshear about body mapping.
I did, and you went straight home that afternoon and put all of that into action.
I did.
And with all your, 35 students rather doing exams?
I did. We got quite a few distinctions and lots of merit, so I was really happy with that. And I'm sure those strategies that she gave me, that I gleaned from that interview, that I put in place, I think that made a bit of a difference for some of them as well.
I'm sure it did. We've had an absolute fabulous time talking to lots of really experienced teachers who've got so much to, you know, there's just so many really wonderful people out there in our community that have got so many things to add and for us to all know about. And actually, a little bit of a sneak peek for next year. We've got a little interview coming up with Christopher Norton, haven't we?
We do. So we'll be speaking to Christopher Norton in the new year. And now every piano teacher knows Christopher Norton's work, I'm sure. And also we're speaking to Sally and Sharon, who are the curious piano teachers based in the UK. So we have lots of people from all over the world that will be coming on the show. So it's really fantastic. So you and I have a similar background in that we both learned at Yamaha, I believe,
Yeah.
when we were children.
There you
So,
go.
and I know, I think my music education could definitely be called non-traditional and a mixed bag, having lived in country Australia, learning on electronic organ and learning basically chords from a very young age. So what was your education like?
Well, look, can totally relate because I had lots of different teachers. I have to say my first few teachers were not that great, but then I did really enjoy my experience at the Yamaha Foundation where we learned electone. I don't even think you can get electones anymore.
No, I don't think you can either.
And primarily in group lessons, and I think that's where I sort of got my love for group teaching. I enjoyed it so much and got so much from it.
You've got a lovely example with one of your students of keys and a story about keys. So tell us about that.
Yeah, well, essentially what I started developing back 10 years ago when I kind of had this epiphany that when my children were as young as 4, I needed to find something that I could wrap them up in this environment where it didn't matter what you played as long as you played from your heart and that you really felt the music and were free to create whatever was in your imagination. And so I came up with this idea of my children drawing pictures out of their own imagination and then us playing stories to it. You know, a little bit like Peter and the Wolf, you know, where that's a ballet or a stage, performance. But it's the same idea of playing the story musically and having motifs, which is, of course, a very ancient form of composing music. And so in my studio for my Play a Story students, every week the students have a project at home where they draw their own picture and with the help of their mums or dads, they write 3 little sentences. I sort of try and keep it to about 3 so it's not too complex. And those 3 sentences are their story motifs that they then create their own motif. And as I'm still telling the story, the idea is that they flow through the story, connecting those motifs. Now, this little girl on this video that I took the clip of, up to this point, what was such a significant video for us to kind of edit and, make a big deal for her, is that up to this point, she would just play her motifs, stop, wait for the next sentence. I'd read it. She'd play the motif, stop. And so it didn't have flow. So it wasn't necessarily musical in the sense of the music telling the story and opening the scene and flowing through to the next, point in the story. And so this was quite significant for her. And it was a beautiful thing to watch.
Well, let's watch it now, shall we?
Sure. Yeah, I'd love to.
Okay, so we have got some magical keys. Which is your favourite key? Oh, I love that one too. How did you draw these keys? Because they're all so perfect.
Just when I didn't really trace it. So
oh, yes, yes. And these happen to be magical keys. Now, do you want to read the story while you play, or do you want me to read the story while you play?
I want you to read the story.
Oh, okay. All right, let's do it that way then. Okay, are you ready? All right. These are magical keys. Magical bubbles. And these magical bubbles keep them very, very safe. with rainbow colours. Sabina. Oh, that was such a great story. Well done. My goodness, maybe that's the most fun you've had with finding different motifs and putting them all together in a story. I tell you what, you've got this. This is very cool. What you're really doing is making up a whole song using your imagination and some ideas to go with it. That's so great. Well done. High five you. Woohoo!
Wow, I loved that. Sabina, how old is she?
She's 6 at the time that we recorded that.
6. And what I really liked is what you explained to her. You just didn't say, oh, that was good. You actually explained to her what she was doing and what she had been doing. Was her mum in the lesson as well?
Yeah, her mum and her little sister, who's just looking to get on the piano.
We could hear her little sister at the end there. And
yeah.
It's so wonderful to be able to share with the parent that. And I think it's just wonderful. So
it makes a huge difference because you can actually convey a much bigger picture than what we're learning during that tiny part of the lesson. Always talk into the philosophy of why we're doing what we're doing and why it's so important. And without the parent there, it's just a list of notes and maybe some project notes, and it's much harder to get that whole holistic teaching about music back to the family home. So
So what are the age group that you would be teaching this to? So is it like
I teach improvisation all the way through my entire studios, from the very beginning point that they come in, regardless how old they are, to the end. I also teach improvisation no matter how far along the journey they've been, whether they're beginners, intermediates or advanced students. And we actually do it the same way. We do it through storytelling. And I have different ways in which I will assimilate that storytelling idea depending on the age, because it does have to be age appropriate. And so, I mean, the biggest difference is that in my very young students, from 3 years old through to, well, actually, however long it's appropriate, are really playing a story with narration and words and pictures. And then, as all stories do, they all grow up and they become movies. And so then, as you know, my students grow up and pass that phase of storytelling through picture books, which incidentally I don't think we ever really grow up from. I've just become a nanny and I love story picture books. But you know, then they're really more interested in, oh my goodness, especially my teenage students who are very much into the music of film scores. You know, they connect with movies as a storytelling, you know, facility.
Genre, yes.
In there.
You have a couple of other videos. Would you like to share what they're about?
Sure, yeah, no problem. So you were saying before, you know, how does, you know, what age groups do you teach this play story to? And I said that I teach it all the way through. So this next video is some kind of just compilation of clips from various students playing the piano to the story. Now, in a couple of seconds, it's very difficult to communicate if you're just watching somebody play a few notes. What are they thinking in their minds? What's going on in their imagination? So with these clips, what I've done is I've actually animated their playing with illustrations from the pictures that they're watching on the book as they're playing and the thoughts, but they're literally 10 seconds each. So like they're really snapshots into these students. And so this is students who are around about from the 5 to 7 age group. Alrighty, okay, well, let me show you the little Meet My Students video.
job. What an adventure for our little butterfly, all the way. And get quieter and quieter, quieter. And then make it come up again. Can we have some lightning, please, Hannah? Hannah, I want a big shot of lightning. Off you go. Oh, fantastic. Can you take over the thunder, please? On the D, there it is. Oh, and I'm going to finish you off. Are you ready? And off. Wow, you're like an orchestra. How awesome was that?
That was fabulous. I loved seeing the parents there. I think one of the key elements in what you're doing is having the parents present, and that they're able to see, and just to seeing the joy in those children's faces of creating this music. It's fantastic.
And when you're teaching that class, you know, because I've got my parents all kind of standing behind and my students on a little inner circle around me, it's not until you do these little videos, I highly recommend that teachers do some videos, because the reactions of those parents, oh my goodness, you know, they were just absolutely, you know, loving on these kids and what they were able to do and the fun that they were having. Yeah.
Exactly. And so what do you do with the older students, the more advanced students, and what can you do for those kids?
Right. So they're still going to use exactly the same principles, but as I said, now instead of having the story, we've got the movies, and so they'll still get 2-minute movie clips, and they are connected in that the story might take place, you know, under the water in the seagrass pastures. Well, the movie then will be that environment without the narration and without the pictures. Before I show it to you, actually, it'd be good to know what I'm saying to my students about this, because it's not just passive, oh, let's watch somebody improvise, how cool, and now we're overwhelmed and we don't want to come to it, right? So I have my students watch it on the condition that they don't try and emulate it. So they're not learning this piece. They're being inspired by this piece, but they're actually also engaging their musical theoretical mind, and they're actually needing to come up with 3 ideas using musical terminology. They need to express those 3 ideas to me the following week. So this is part of their homework project. So we're not taking up time doing this in class. Find 3 observations and then choose 1 or more of those observations and implement it in your improvisation next week when we come back together and we have a celebration of improvisation. So that's what my students are doing. So when you're watching this, it might be something that you want to do yourself and our viewers to be doing, is to just saying, okay, what's the melody doing? What's the bass doing? What are the chordal structures? Where are they going? How is he stylizing those chords to tell that story? Let's have a look.
I love it. I did notice. I did notice the 571, the 571.
There you go. And so that's what a student might come back to. That will be like, oh, my observation, I have this, this, and this. I'm implementing. I'm using my 5 in there.
So your website is innermusician.com.
Innermusician.com.
So, Lyndel, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure. I've had a ball chatting with you, Paul, and thank you for those great conversations. You know, I just think the more we have those conversations, the more we open up this admittedly still not traditional approach to music, but I think it's moving forward. And so thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Watch the complete interview with Lyndel Kennedy at pianoteachingsuccess.com/episode 4.
And we'd like to leave you with a little muck around that we had on the piano, totally improvised, of Dreaming of a White Christmas. So have a wonderful Christmas, everyone.